Hi guys, I'm Alex. First of all, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you being here. I'm going to walk through kind of I'm going to start with like a 3-segment presentation. I'm going to go through our vision again, just so everybody kind of understands what motivates us. We're going to talk some about customers who are now up and running. The Azure AD Premium service has been available in market about 7 months, and I want to tell you about some of the things that some of our largest customers are doing with it. And then I'm going to go through a whole bunch of futures and show you kind of the things that are on the roadmap and coming that we're investing in, and also share with you some news that isn't even public until tomorrow, so it'll be kind of fun to get a preview of that. But this is, when we talk about, hey, what motivates the work that we do in the identity team today, it's really this world of the cloud and devices. I heard another speaker talk about this as kind of the borderless enterprise, a world where people can do work that they need to do, and that might be your employees, that might be your partners, that might be your customers, can get access to all of the business processes and business tools and data that they need to be productive on any device wherever they're working, right? And regardless of whether you're hosting that on-premise or you're hosting that in the cloud or you're hosting that in a public or a private cloud, you want people to be able to kind of realize this new amazing world of agility and flexibility and global reach and easy access and seamless collaboration from all these crazy devices that they love, right? But do it in a way that's auditable and secure and compliant and relatively low overhead, right? And that's like, how do you do that? And unfortunately, the world that I think we are rapidly finding ourselves in is one like this, right? Where there's, I call it rogue IT, right? There's every company I've met with, and I've met with hundreds and hundreds of customers over the past 2 years. In this role, everybody has a plan for the workload or the thing that they're going to move in a very thoughtful way into cloud. And it might be I'm moving into Office 365 for email, or I have a legacy workload I'm moving into VMs in Azure or AWS or something like that. But while that is happening in a thoughtful, planned way, people in all of the business departments are whipping out credit cards and signing up for Dropbox, right? And they're signing up for Salesforce.com, and they're creating kind of this cacophony of lots of unmanaged and unknown devices being used to access lots of unmanaged and unknown service applications in the cloud, all with your business data, right? And how do you get ahead of that? And I think identity is the way you get ahead of that. Right? Identity is the consistent control plane that if you have a great identity strategy and some really good supporting identity processes in place, you can enable your company to realize the benefits of the cloud and devices world, but in a way that you can report to the board of directors, hey, we know what's going on, and when an employee leaves, we know how to remove their access instantly. When a partner works with us, they can easily get to the stuff they need to, but when an employee leaves the partner, they no longer get to the stuff they don't need to. And hey, I can provide a high quality, reliable end user experience for consumers to come in and do business with us as well. And I think about all of that as the control plane. And if you go back 15 years ago, you used to have this really nice control plane kind of made up by your firewall and your Windows Server Active Directory. It had your servers in your lab, and you had well-managed desktops that you were kind of in control in. And maybe in a remote scenario, someone VPN'd in, but essentially they were still part of your network, and you had nice control over it. And then we got this new world with all these cool new devices. In fact, as a software engineer, this is one of the most exciting things that's ever happened, and certainly in my 20-plus years in the company, is there will be something like 4 billion smart devices in people's hands next year around the world that can all run software, right? That is awfully exciting. I wish a lot more of them ran Windows software, but it's fine, right? We love the ones that run iOS and Android software as well. And we want to give people the ability to take advantage of those cool devices and all these amazing things in the cloud, but do it in a way that, again, is kind of well-managed and thoughtful and gives you the ability to control and be compliant and audit and have security like you used to in your on-premise world. And we think of the connection between Windows Server Active Directory and Microsoft Azure Active Directory as the critical kind of linchpin that lets you run a well-thought-out, compliant organization in a way that takes advantage of all these amazing new capabilities in the cloud. And that's really what motivates the vision for Active Directory. Right? The vision for Active Directory is this hybrid world, right, where you can take your existing on-premise. In fact, I'd say it's a different thing. It's one of the key differentiators about Microsoft overall, is we believe that for the next 10 years at least, most large organizations will have a substantial on-premise investment that they continue to want to feed and nurture and get value out of, while at the same time in the cloud wanting to take advantage of all these amazing new capabilities in the cloud and get faster, move with more agility, expose things more easily to customers and partners. And we think that identity in that hybrid world as that critical connector between those two worlds and letting you use the same sets of users and policies and groups and organizational units and things that you used on-premise and extend those out to the cloud and Azure Active Directory to get the ability to do things like, hey, you want to work with Office 365? Well, that's great. We love that. And in fact, an awful lot of our customers, that's the first scenario that they use Azure Active Directory for. But also for applications you might want to host in Azure, or a huge number of applications that in fact, have nothing to do with us. Salesforce.com, Dropbox, Concur. In fact, every day, over 1,000 different non-Microsoft SaaS applications are managed using Azure Active Directory. Right? So being able to extend out to that world, being able to extend out to all of those wonderful new devices. So in a world where those devices are treated like first-class citizens, right, and where they can participate in your domain, and you can know that it is that device because it's registered and has a cert that you were looking for on it and feel pretty secure about using it and knowing what the health state of that device is. And then even now we've added in the capability to use that directory as a way to give people access back to your on-premise apps. So for instance, if you've got a SharePoint site or an Exchange, you want to let someone get to OA and Exchange or things like that, we can let you do that from the cloud in as well now. So a device that's registered in the cloud directory with a user record, someone can log in, can get all the way back to an on-premise application that you want to expose to them, right? Without having to have a VPN in and giving that, what I think of as promiscuous device, particularly if it's an Android device, giving it access to your network. Right? That's not a great thing. It would be much better to proxy access to your network like we do it in Azure AD. So this is really the motivating vision behind the directory. But I want to point out, it is, first of all, it's a giant investment on our part. Every day, about 700 engineers now come to work and go to work on this vision of an integrated identity and security system that gives you this control plane for the web. It is the world's largest enterprise identity and access management system in the cloud. As of last week, we had about 4.5 million organizations that were now using the directory for one cloud service or another. They authenticate many, many billions of times a week. And we're just getting close to, I think this week we'll pass 380 million user records in the directory. So we continue to just grow. And if you saw if you looked at our quarterly report 2 days ago, which from a revenue thing wasn't so hot, but from a growth of cloud services was amazing, right? As Microsoft cloud services grow, every Microsoft Business Cloud service is linked into Azure AD. So there's a huge opportunity here in terms of the size, right? But it also is giving us the ability to prove out the directory and make it global scale and make sure that it really is enterprise quality in a way that no one else can do, because we're now running one of the world's largest enterprise clouds all on top of this cloud directory. I'll talk more about it. Our vision here, though, is a lot more than a directory, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. Everything we do in the cloud, though, is cross-platform and standards-based. We know that the cloud is a heterogeneous world, and there's lots of different things that you might want to connect to or be able to connect with it. So we do things in a very different way in the cloud than we did on-premise in terms of endorsing standards. And then finally, Azure Active Directory Premium is the premium set of functionality on top of Azure AD that large organizations will want to be able to manage lots of people and lots of devices and their compliance and health state and this kind of hybrid world of I want to be able to move things easily back and forth between the cloud. It is not just a directory. Of course, there's a really huge directory underneath it. But it kind of gives you a lot of different components, and this is our vision of the world, which is that on-premise, you had all these different products you had to kind of figure out ways to bundle together. You had probably a directory or two, or sometimes three maybe directories. You had an IAM solution probably to move identities around and coordinate things like password reset. You had a security system that was monitoring some of those things, and you had an operations system that was monitoring some of those things. And you had connectors that you either bought separately or created, or maybe you got them for free and they let you talk to different applications, right? So there was a whole bunch of things that you had to kind of cobble together on premise to get a complete identity solution. In the cloud, we're just making it all one service, right? Azure Active Directory, our vision is this complete end-to-end solution. And I'll talk to you in a little while about how we're expanding that vision and some of the new things that we're going to enable you to do with it. But it gives you all these capabilities, a pre-integrated catalog of 2,400 applications, automated application provisioning, conditional access, which you might think of as like an advanced version of adaptive authentication, SaaS app discovery and usage monitoring. So we have really great tools to help you go in and start the inventory. In fact, a lot of companies now, the first thing they do with Azure AD is they start and build up an inventory using our cloud app discovery tools of what are all the cloud apps that my people are even using, right? And how do I get that set of apps, at least a list, and I can see who's using what and what's scary and what's not scary, figure out what I have to go work on and which things I want to bring into my compliance framework and which things I want to go let people know, well, that, we just don't accept using that for business purposes. We have this cloud op proxy I was talking about for getting back to on-premise applications. We have a whole set of new capabilities around device registration and indicating the health of a device to make really great decisions with. And then finally, lots of built-in auditing, security, and operational monitoring, and all things that will continue to get richer. So I don't expect, this is an eye chart, and I don't expect you to even be able to see the eye chart, but I like to use it just as a way to illustrate the full breadth of what's in the product today. So everything up here on the screen is something that's available in Azure Active Directory today. And it really does give you this very complete solution, but we're just getting started, right? So in a few minutes, I'll tell you about some of the new things that are coming in the space as well. But I thought the more interesting thing might be to start and talk about, hey, we're 7 months into this journey of a cloud IAM system. How's it going, right? And what are customers doing with it? So I wanted to tell you about a few of our largest customers who are now up and actively using the system. So this is a large North American retail organization. They have 185,000 users in the directory, and in fact, that's growing every day. They have this interesting challenge, like most retailers, where 30% or so of their workforce shows up between October 15th and November 1st, and then leaves on January 15th. Right? So they have to be able to be very efficient at creating a whole bunch of new identities, getting them out into the cloud applications that those people need to use, and then when those people leave, turning off their access to those applications. In this case, their number one application that they started with is ServiceNow, because a store floor employee logs into ServiceNow every morning to figure out what station are they at for the next 5 hours, right? And what's the thing they're supposed to be working on. So for this company, we hooked up the single sign-on with ServiceNow and are provisioning hundreds and thousands of users into ServiceNow and then back. In fact, right now we're mostly provisioning users out of ServiceNow for them because it's that time of year. And this gave these people these workers a really nice ability to get single sign-on into ServiceNow, get their work assignments for the day, and get out and get their jobs done. This company now is expanding into Office 365, Salesforce, Yammer, and they have a couple other SaaS apps they're looking at too. They used all of these features of the directory. They used sync. They used our single sign-on to SaaS applications. They used automated user provisioning and deprovisioning. They're using our application proxy now to get back to a few apps on-premise. They've turned on company branding for sign-in, and they're using the myapps.microsoft.com. That's this launch pad we're showing here, and that's where their users log into to go log into the apps that they need to get business done. Right, so this is a really nice, they're very happy, this is a nice use case, and they're saving themselves hundreds and hundreds of hours of manual work in order to get people in and out of their cloud applications. So here's another one. This is another retailer here in the United States. They have 130,000 employees in the system, and their use case is a little bit different. They use Workday as their HR system. So every time a new employee comes to the company, the HR department enters that employee's information into Workday. we automatically get a pipe of that from Workday into Azure AD and create user records in Azure AD from the Workday account. And then those users can log into Azure Active Directory. They have several applications they've hooked up, but the most important one, in fact, is getting them single sign-on back into Workday again so that they can go fill in their W-2s and timesheets and record vacation hours and check their, their pay stubs. So this is another customer that's up and running at very, very large scale and using this kind of end-to-end provisioning to get a really automated flow where the whole thing happens without anybody having to touch any buttons once an HR person enters that employee's data in Workday. This is kind of a big, what I would call a UK consumer conglomerate. They're kind of in everything. They have about 250,000 employees, and they do some banking, and they do some retail, and they do some other things. They are using us for self-service password reset. So in this case, we are just getting them up and running now. The users, though, will use self-service password reset, and they have this interesting mix of cloud-only users and on-premise users in their Active Directory. So now there'll be one consistent place for users to go to be able to manage their own passwords without having to call the help desk. And they're going to be saving, it looks at this point like they're going to save themselves 500 to 700 calls a week to their help desk on password resets. And we can do this in a way that it can manage passwords in the cloud, but also can manage passwords all the way back to your on-premise Active Directory, and even adheres to whatever sets of password policy you've created on-premise for those users. So this is another feature that we're really happy with, and we can see already customers getting good benefit from it. And then I'm not going to steal Patrick's thunder. Patrick's here, and he's going to talk to you later. But the Walsh Group is one of our most advanced customers. They're using a whole ton of features, and they're particularly some of the security things I think Patrick is going to talk to you about. But they use a lot of our security and protection features and monitoring, so I won't steal his thunder. But we have a huge set of security capabilities built right into the product. So we can tell you things like people are logging in from weird locations. They are accessing lots of different applications that maybe they shouldn't be accessing. Someone tried to log in from a machine that doesn't look like the machine that they usually log in from. Someone is doing things like for instance, in our machine learning system, which has billions and billions of data points it gathers every day now from across all of the Microsoft cloud properties, you can look and see, for instance, Alex, when I come in every morning, I log into Office 365. I go check our BI dashboard to see how many customers we added the previous day and how many new active users we have, right? And I go to SharePoint and I download a report, right? That's my first hour in the office every day. And then I kind of use other things infrequently during the day. If the system all of a sudden saw in the middle of the night that I was trying to access 35 different applications, right? Our machine learning system can catch that and can notify an admin, or in fact, very soon take automated steps to prevent me from being able to get to 35 applications in the middle of the night, because most likely that is not me. That's not the behavior that we've observed from Alex as a user of the system. So our machine learning system is catching all of these kinds of things, and it gets smarter every day and gives you as a customer the ability to get greater visibility and to catch weird things going on that you might want to do something about. The last piece I'll talk to you about is, in this section is, we do have a really nice open platform for integrating applications with the directory. So everything we do is open standards based. And we have awesome libraries for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, obviously for .NET services. But if you want to write in PHP or Java or Node.js or whatever you want to use for your applications, right? We have an open source library available for you to be able to use it to integrate with a directory. Or you can just write straight to the protocols. Right, if you want to use SAML or OAuth 2 or OpenID Connect or OData 3, that's all we use. Like, those are the standards underneath the directory. There's no secret Microsoft API here. And it's working well. Already there are over 4,000 custom cloud line of business apps that every day are authenticating using Azure AD. And there's over 1,000 SaaS applications, not ones that we have pre-integrated, applications that other people have integrated in with the directory using this platform, that are used with the directory every single day. So there's a growing group of people who have had a lot of success now building applications that integrate with the directory. And this gives you a lot of nice benefits, like obviously single sign-on. But you can also now write applications that can, once they're integrated with AD, can start accessing a user's Office 365 materials. So things like where's their mailbox, where's their calendar, where's their SkyDrive. So your application can start doing some really smart things across that whole set of resources that the user owns. Of course, all of this is done in a way that gives you nice controls as an admin. You can decide if these applications are allowed or not. You can decide what level of visibility those applications will have. And of course, you can monitor all of them just like you do everything else in the system. So you can see who's using them and when they're using them. One of our big pushes, we've been working really hard on this for a while now, is making sure that this really is an enterprise-class system. So the first thing about being enterprise-ready we think of as reliability and performance. Right? So we do have a 99.9% SLA. In the 7 months that the premium service has been available and the 4 years that Office 365 has been available running on this, we've never missed our SLA. And every customer gets 3x redundancy in our data centers around the world. Right, so your identity data, and you get some control over which set of geographies your identity data can go into, but your data is always in at least 3 data centers, and the way our system is architected, at any moment, if a data center burned down, right, we can automatically reroute you to a working data center, and your data is there and up to date. And in fact, at no time are the data centers out of sync from each other more than 45 seconds. And in most cases, they are only out of sync about 5 seconds. To give you a sense, in the last month, we automatically rerouted traffic between Azure data centers 7 times, right? Where a data center fell over and we had to reroute traffic to another data center. We never had a second of downtime while we did it. Right, so it is an automated system. No one wakes up in the middle of the night and kicks the servers. The servers know how to take care of themselves, and the servers know, oh, there's a problem behind me. I better reroute to someplace else. So this is happening all the time. In fact, we have automated service systems now that go in and crash our data centers for us so that we are always exercising the ability to roll over to a new data center, and we know it's constantly working. Those 7 were not actually us crashing it. Those were real data center problems that we were able to roll over and just recover from. And we do have data centers all around the world. So even for customers in Asia or in Europe, we have data. We can put your directory local to you so that people can get really great performance and access to the system. Soon, you'll see us turn on an EU-only data center as well. So for North American customers, that's not such a big deal. But for European customers, that's a really big deal to be able to make sure that their data stays only in EU data centers rather than being replicated to the US. So you'll see some cool news from us there not too long from now. The last piece I'll talk about in this section is we've put a lot of effort into trying to make this hybrid vision of connecting your AD on-premise and your cloud directory much, much simpler. Now, of course, the internal processes you have around your managing identities, right, still probably need some work, right, and are probably the kind of things you want to invest in. But we want to make sure that creating the pipe between your on-premise identities and your cloud identity system is super simple. And so we've put this new tool together. We call it Azure AD Connect. It takes a lot of the things that were in DirSync and Azure AD Sync and FIM and the Azure AD Connector, consolidates them all into one tool that can then go through and do all of the synchronization for you, and you can choose which set of options you want to use in terms of which groups do I want to synchronize, what type of authentication do I want to use? Do I want to use cloud authentication or do I want to use on-premise authentication? And all of that is just taken care of for you in one simple wizard. You can get up and running in about 4 clicks now to get this connection going. If you've got a more advanced topology, maybe you want to use a bunch of ADFS servers, which the tool can also deploy and configure for you correctly, and then show you, in fact, test from the outside that they actually are configured correctly. Right? It takes a few more clicks. But it still is all just part of the one integrated flow to help you get up and running and get that really great connection between your on-premise identity and the cloud going. So continuing on the Ready for Enterprises theme, we've also turned on a role-based access control system The first place you might have seen this is in Azure itself. So now Azure has a whole collection of roles that let you specify that a specific user can only do, or a group of users, can only do certain things, like they can only manage this set of SQL servers. Or they can get to everything in this set of resources for this application, but they can't change my subscription, right? Or they're only allowed to reboot VMs, right? There's a whole bunch of granularity that you have the option to use. And soon we'll turn on the ability to create custom roles. But this is really just the beginning of that kind of the ability for you to do separation of authority. You'll see over the next 6 months that we start putting RBAC everywhere, right? So you'll see an increasing number of Microsoft Cloud services that have full RBAC capabilities in them, and then also a set of libraries that let you use the directory and the directory's RBAC system for custom applications that you're creating as well. So you'll see more and more of this as we extend out. But we think this is one of the critical things you just have to have in place to really have an enterprise class identity management system. Is a great way to make sure that you've got separation of authority and that no single person can do too much damage. Right? We've also just turned on a preview of what we call administrative units. And this, for our very largest customers, this is critical because they need the ability to divide up the way that IT works. So they have a North American IT department and maybe a European IT department and an Asian IT department. And those departments have responsibilities for managing users and applications and devices locally. And so administrative units give you the ability, like you could on-premise with organizational units, to subdivide your directory up and make sure that the right people have authority over the right places. This is in preview now, and it's the first set of scenarios are all around user management, like who can create users and change users and modify passwords and things like that. But you'll see this get much, much richer as well as we start building more things that adhere to this administrative units. But we think this is really the other key piece of being ready for enterprises, is giving you both an RBAC system that lets you specify people's roles and what they can do, and then administrative units that let you scope the directory and say, okay, this set of people and the administrators and their devices and things are a coherent unit inside my company that I want to be able to give local control to. The nice thing about AUs is that unlike OUs, they are not hierarchical. So while this is drawn as a hierarchy, this is a much more flexible system. And so you could represent AUs. AUs can have kind of end-to-end relationships between each other, and they can overlap as well. So a user could be in, if you need it, a user could be in multiple AUs. And so the strict hierarchy of OUs, which works great if you're the US military, but nobody else, right? We've done away with for AUs. Oh, there's my build. Okay. I don't really like build slides very much. So conditional access is another big area that we've been investing in. This is the last piece of this kind of Ready for Enterprises story, which is giving you the ability to create as an administrator policies that evaluate, I think of it as evaluating the context of an authentication request and then making smart decisions about what should happen. Right? So the context might be things about the user. Who are they? What group members? What groups are they in? What auth strengths do they have? It might be things like what device are they coming in on, right? Are they coming in on one that's been registered with your organization and they were able to present a certificate? Is it managed by an MDM system, hopefully Intune, but others as well? Is it compliant with your corporate policies? Has it been reported lost or stolen? All those has it been jailbroken? Things like that, like those kinds of context. Context in terms of what application are they trying to access? Are they trying to access one that, it's like the employee handbook, you don't really care who accesses it? Or is it more like, the order management system, you really care who's accessing it? Or it's the SEC report, you really super care, right? So you want to be able to control by the business application. And then finally, lots of other information that we're going to start feeding into for you as well, like, are they coming from inside or outside your corporate network? But also all kinds of information we have about that'll help you build a security risk score. In fact, we'll build it and you can use it. That'll show you, are they coming from a known bad IP address? Are they coming from a known botnet? Are they coming from some place that's tried to log into lots of other user accounts recently and failed? Are they coming from a known kind of dark site? Like, we'll be able to give you all this kind of information to then feed into the conditional access system to make smart policy choices then and say, okay, If someone is coming in who gave me a good user attribute, like I know who they are and I trust their identity, and they're coming from a known device, but they look like they're coming from a weird IP address, maybe what I want to do is force them to auth up and and give me a multi-factor proof, right, to show who they are. But if they're on a device I know, and it's a user I know, and they're coming from inside my corporate firewall, I'm just going to let them through, right? So you'll be able to do this based on the application and a whole bunch of other variables as well. All this gets evaluated in real time. In fact, in less than 100 milliseconds, we can evaluate all these criteria in our conditional access system in the directory, and then decide whether to let that user through to the resource they're trying to get to. Question?
Is that dependent at all on the method of auth that you're using, whether it's a cloud password or a sync password or federated authentication?
It does not. So the question was, does it matter at all what kind of auth you are using? The answer is, it does not matter what kind of auth you are using. However, you could use the type of auth as one of the contextual variables that you want to use in making your policy decision. For us, this is a very exciting set of work. The first place we've used it is actually with Office 365 and Intune. So if you are, and I don't know how many of you follow the news like this, but so Microsoft has just released a set of Office applications for iOS that work with an Intune container that you can now say, for instance, before someone can use a Word doc on this corporate managed device with Intune, they have to be in a good device health state, and the device has to meet my compliance requirements and be registered in the directory. And then what the directory does is it evaluates that set of contexts and decides both, can the application launch, right? So will they be able to launch Word at all on that device? And will the application be able to call the API set for Office 365 or not? Right? And that's all done using this cool combination of Intune, Office 365, and conditional access in the directory. So this is the first place you'll see this. It's live today with lots of Office iOS applications, and soon you'll see this extended to Android applications, and then to the full set of Windows applications in the Windows 10 cycle as well. This is a really popular, and we see a lot of customers who think this is kind of the defining use case for the cloud in terms of being able to get a really great managed experience with Office that gives you lots of controls, and you know your data can't leave that container on that device. There was something else I meant to tell you. Oh, I know what I meant to say. And here's the first piece of news that nobody else knows except for you guys now. Tomorrow we'll announce that this is also being turned on. In fact, the preview will go live tomorrow. I'm blogging about it, for letting you set MFA policy per application, and MFA policy based on the network IP address, range of IP addresses that the user is coming from. So that's the first place where you'll start to see those, the conditional access policies being exposed. And then over the course of the next 6 months, we'll turn on more and more and more policy options for you. OK, so that gets me through the Ready for Enterprises part. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is some of the future things that we're doing that are really about our expanding vision of what Active Directory is about. And I really think of this as this hybrid vision of Azure Active Directory and Windows Server Active Directory together. What are the new scenarios and the new capabilities we're bringing to you? So up at the top, I'm going to talk some about scenario depth and richness, some of the things you expect a directory to do or that you've expected from IAM systems in the past. You'll see us do more and deeper work here as we go forward. We're doing a whole set of work to make it simpler to connect with your partners and suppliers. A really cool new service that lets you do cloud-optimized experiences for consumer customers. And then finally, a big investment in helping you secure and monitor your end-to-end identity platform. The first big kind of new, richer scenario is a thing we call Cloud Domain Join. It's the code name. There'll be an official name soon. But this is a Windows 10 client feature where, as an employee, you'll be able to go to Best Buy, buy Windows 10 Pro or Enterprise, take your Azure Active Directory credentials, and log in. And that machine will automatically be domain joined into Azure Active Directory in the cloud. The configuration of that device can be set. Things like OS state roaming, like your desktop and which apps you have installed and what settings in the OS you have, which way will roam with you between different machines, right? And you'll get things like backup and restore, all of those built right into the service. And then finally, well, not finally, you'll also get SSO from the desktop to org resources, so you won't have to have a separate Microsoft account from your Office 365 and Azure AD account anymore. You'll just be able to log into the machine using your Microsoft Azure Active Directory credentials. That'll then single sign you on into Azure Active Directory and all the Office applications. But that'll also then let you get access to the new Windows Enterprise Curated Store. So this is the Windows App Store, but as an enterprise, you'll have the ability to go in and say, this is the set of applications I want to make available to my employees. And then using their Azure AD joined machine, they'll be able to go to the store, see the apps you're making available, download and install them onto that machine. It'll automatically, when you cloud domain join something, it will automatically enroll it in the MDM system. And obviously, Intune will work for this, but we're also working with MobileIron, AirWatch, and several others to make sure that they're supported as well. So there won't be a separate step to go enroll in MDM. It'll just be part of joining to the domain. And then finally, if you are somebody who has traditional domain-joined PCs, they will get all of these same benefits as well. So a domain-joined PC, if you choose as an administrator, you can say, yeah, also cloud domain join it. And so all these things like OS state roaming and getting to the store and those types of things that the cloud enables will also be enabled for on-premise using the Azure AD Cloud in the same way. So you'll see us do more and more of this kind of thing where we are expanding the footprint and the use cases that you get out of the identity management system in the cloud and bringing some of the traditional things that you did on-premise as well as expanding into new capabilities in the cloud. But this one, hopefully you're excited. I know the team is really excited. We're all dog-fooding it now, and it's pretty cool. There's a question in the back there.
Are you going to need the AD Premium to do this stuff, or is this going to be?
The ability, so the question is, will you need AD Premium? The ability to log into the machine and the OS state roaming are free features of the Pro and Enterprise editions of Windows Client. The more advanced features like admin control, automated MDM enrollment, multiple users being able to log into the machine, and a few others are premium features.
Okay. Well, if this all works, this is awesome.
Thank you. I'm using it. It's working so far, yeah.
So you mentioned this will come with the Windows 10 platform. Will there be any option to, or do you plan on having any of these capabilities rolled back to 8 or 7?
There is no way to roll them back. The code changes are too deep. However, as Terry announced a week ago, I think, or 2 weeks ago or whatever, in the first year of Windows 10, upgrades from 7 and 8 are at no fee. So everybody who wants to get it and is willing to take the plunge in the first year, this is just the free capability. Any other questions on this? I hope you're as excited as we are. It's going to be super cool. Okay, the next scenario I was telling you about is this ability to connect with your partners and suppliers. So we're doing a whole bunch of work now to make it really easy for your suppliers or your partners to be able to authenticate and do work with you. So maybe there's an application you want them to get access to, or you want to share documents or things like that. Today that can be pretty challenging, right? Like if you're managing intercompany federation, you've lived with that pain. That's really yucky, right? Or maybe you've got an on-premise directory that you're managing for all your partners where you've given them usernames and passwords and they're logging into your on-premise directory that you maintain for them. Maybe it's an ADLDS server or something like that. And when they need a password reset, they call you. Oh, that's yucky too, right? Like all of the existing options for doing this are pretty painful, right? So we're going to turn Azure AD into essentially a cloud federation hub, where you'll be able to say, hey, my partner I want to invite this partner to do work with me across Azure AD. You'll be able to specify essentially the modern equivalent of a trust between those two tenants, and then specify the groups of users that can collaborate together across that trust. So you'll have the ability to kind of see who from their tenant has access to your things, and get full auditing and reporting and all that kind of things as they do stuff, right? And the ability to cut that off at any time you want to if a relationship should go sour, right? But it gets rid of all of the cost of maintaining, certs between you and setting up federations and figuring out are our token formats correct and all that. We'll just take care of all that mess for you in the cloud. It also, if you're managing on-premise, gives you a way to get out of having to manage their usernames and passwords. They can just manage their usernames and passwords, all those things themselves, using the same identities they use for Office or with their AD on-premise. Plus, we're in the process of getting the system so that if you have really small partners, customers, in fact, who don't have an AD and maybe aren't in the cloud and don't have Azure AD, where the flow for them will look just like using a consumer service. They'll come in and they'll verify that they have an email address, right? And we'll give them an account tied to their email address, and they'll log in, and it'll just look like a consumer service. Under the covers, though, however, they'll have a tenant, and they'll have users in the tenant, and all the cool things that we do for Azure AD, but in a simple way that a small business doesn't have to have an admin who's maintaining a directory for them. So you'll see all of this turning on in the next 6 months. It's one of the major investment areas that we're working on. I think it's really cool. We have a couple of big customers who already are working with us to get the final kind of like specifications written, and they'll be previewing this in about a month and a half and trying it out in their companies. If you're interested in getting in early and want to be involved in kind of an early preview program for this, we'd love to work with you on it. The next big set of functionality we're turning on is Azure AD Business to Consumer. So if you have a business where you need to let consumers log in and do business directly with you, particularly if you want to let them do that using their Facebook account or their Microsoft account or their Yahoo ID or their LinkedIn account or things like that, we're now using the underpinnings of Azure AD to let you build that kind of system. And it'll have all kinds of really cool features. Obviously, self-service user registration, the ability to log in with lots of different social IDPs, self-service password management, user profile management, the ability to get SSO across all your company websites, the complete control over the user interface. So if you don't want to look anything like our UI, you can go in and completely change the whole thing. All of our security monitoring alerts will work against this, 99.99% SLA. Because it's running on Azure AD, it has all of the same benefits of our high availability cross-regional data center architecture. So it's a system that basically knows how to maintain its own health. And then optionally, you can also add MFA onto this if you want for higher assurance transactions. This will all be in preview in the next 90 days. And we're pretty excited about it. We already have 8 customers who are up and live using the service today to manage millions and millions of consumer accounts. So you'll hopefully, if you have a use case for this, we'd love to get you into an early preview as well. Okay, so I talked about richer. I talked about connecting to partners. I talked about connecting to customers. Now I want to talk about monitoring and securing your identity platform. This is another piece of news we're announcing tomorrow, which is we're going to turn on this cool new service called Azure AD Connect Health. This is another Azure AD premium service. And what it does is it is monitoring the health state of your composite identity platform across the cloud and on-premise. The first thing we're monitoring is ADFS. So this is actually here. This is the Azure monitoring page that Microsoft IT is using. Oh, in fact, no, the next one is. Hold on. This is the one that Microsoft IT is using in Azure to monitor the health state of all of our ADFS servers around the world. And it's showing us cool things like, you can see here, for instance, there was a big spike yesterday at about 10 a.m. where all of a sudden a whole bunch of requests hit the ADFS server. And you can see over here what kinds of requests are coming in and what form they're coming in at. And then down here, you can see which applications people are logging into in ADFS. Right, so this is giving you a really rich operational dashboard to be able to monitor the health of your identity system. So this is going into preview tomorrow. In the first preview, it's all around monitoring, alerting, and performance reporting for Windows Server ADFS and for the Windows Server Web Application Proxy. And it gives you things like login activity reporting by user, application, network location, authentication method, and the server. And it can even show you things like the patch status of an ADFS server, like if you need to apply, is it up to the latest set of patches? And it will alert you if there's an important patch that hasn't been applied to that ADFS server. And in the future, so very soon you'll see us add monitoring for the core AD, so the AD DCs, for FIM and for Microsoft Identity Manager, for AD Sync and Connect, for cloud apps, for CWAP, which is our cloud gateway, and for a lot more stuff. But this is our first step in giving you really a great monitoring and operational view, so you know what's the health of that key connection that, like, we think of as the pivot point between your on-premise identity and your cloud identity that makes this hybrid world a real thing. And like I said, it's up and running today with Microsoft IT. We also have a whole set of very large customers for Office 365 who have used it. And by using it and working with us, we've managed to dramatically improve the performance and the response time that their employees get. Because this gives you a great tool for doing an inbound, well, it's kind of an outside-in view of what the real performance of your ADFS servers looks like for someone trying to log in from the web. Yes?
It runs on-prem or it runs from the outside?
The agents run on-prem. All of the data analysis and reporting is done in the cloud. We also have outside-in monitors that are pinging and pinging your ADFS server to make sure that, in fact, it's up and healthy. So hopefully you'll be interested in this. But it's that part of, not only do we want to make sure that you have a great identity system, we want to make sure that it's in great health and it's very secure. And then securing your identity platform, hopefully I've talked some, and Patrick will talk more, but I've talked some about the things that we do to secure Azure Active Directory, things like monitoring and machine learning. We're also turning on a whole set of capabilities around privileged account management so that you can take the kind of the scary accounts, your administrator accounts, your global admin and all those, and already in public preview with Microsoft Identity Manager and Windows Server AD, you can basically do elevation, right? So you have to request rather than having, let me start over again. Rather than having 600 administrators accounts all the time tied to users, you take everybody out of an admin role. And if they want to do admin things, they go to a console and they request, hey, I'd like to do an admin thing for the next 3 hours, right? And so they elevate for 3 hours and they can go do that admin thing. And then the admin role, they're automatically taken out of the admin role. It's a really great way to decrease the surface area that's at risk inside your company by having all of those scary roles and scary users. So MIM, the next version of FIM, which we call Microsoft Identity Manager, and Windows Server AD in preview today do that. In the next 60 days, you'll see us turn on a preview of this in Azure Active Directory as well. The ability to do the same kind of elevation and protection of roles in the cloud that we're showing in on-premise. And then, there's a missing parentheses here. But Aorata, I don't know how, some of you may have seen this. We acquired a small Israeli company about 60 days ago, maybe 90, called Aorata. And they do the same kind of threat monitoring and analytics for on-premise directories that we do for Azure AD in the cloud. So this spring, you'll see us bring out a beta of the Microsoft Azure product that'll give you that same set of capabilities that we're using to protect your AD in the cloud to now protect your on-premise directory as well. So you'll be able to see things like potential pass-the-hash attacks or people logging in from multiple machines in weird places, or someone's TGT showing up from 3 different machines when it shouldn't. Like, we have all kinds of interesting all kinds of interesting attack patterns that we can detect for you and show you inside your company, and even recommend the set of mitigations to go along with those. So again, this is a very big set of investments for us in terms of making sure that your identity platform between the on-premise and the cloud is secure, and that it's high functioning and it's delivering a great user experience. So that's in fact, as you think about so that gives you that expansion of all the different directions that we're going and kind of our expanding vision of what our identity story is for the world. If you're thinking about Azure AD, like evaluating, hey, should I use it or not? I'll just leave you with, hey, here's the key things that are really different about us. We have much deeper security monitoring and reporting than anybody else. Our Cloud App Discovery service is widely used. In fact, the most widely used feature of the product is this initial go out and find all the crazy apps that your employees might be using. We have our worldwide data center footprint with 28 different data centers, and our high availability design is second to none. Nobody beats it. In fact, nobody's even close to it. A whole bunch of work we're doing and is already in preview that really is about making sure that the largest enterprises in the world can be successful using it. We have a great dev platform and lots of apps already using that dev platform. Conditional access with Office 365 and Intune is a very compelling set of features and capabilities, I think. And then finally, coming soon, cloud domain join and the ability to directly join your new PCs to the cloud instead of to on-premise. And of course, all of this is optimized for hybrid. Right? Every day we think and breathe and live the world of hybrid enterprise rather than cloud only. And so if you're thinking about this as a solution for you, these are the main reasons you might want to choose it. Finally, I want to tell you about a new team we've formed over the last 6 months. This is our customer and partner success team. It's led by Sue Bone, who's on the far right there. And all of these folks, some of them who you probably know, a lot of you, I hope, know Travis. But this is a team and a rapidly growing team. This is the first set. There's a lot more of them going to be hired. Their whole job is to make partners and customers successful. So every customer has a member of this team appointed to help them. Every partner has a member of this team who they can contact directly. And every time you're working, if you're a customer working with a partner, we will help you and the partner to make sure that you get live and you get successfully running the service. And plus to share with you kind of best practices and tips and the things that we are learning from other customers, right, that might be helpful in your organization. Right? So this is a whole set of full-time people. You'll see them expand greatly as we work really hard to make sure that you realize the full benefits of the system and really can get up and using it successfully. And in fact, in some cases, we put these guys on planes. They will come to your place of business and help if you're stuck. My last slide. If you've heard anything from me today, identity really is your new control plane. I hope you're choosing to use our identity system as your new control plane. But it's worth your investment. It is whether it's ours or somebody else's, it is the only way that you're going to be able to extend out and really make full use of this world of cloud and devices. And I think we all want to bring those benefits to our companies. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm here. My team is here. The next 2 days worth of agenda are packed with deep dives into all kinds of the things I told you about here. If you want more information, there's always our website. And for the latest, follow me on Twitter. Every single new thing that goes into preview, I tweet about. And there's a nice blog post about it. So you can always find out the latest that's going on just by following me on Twitter. So thank you. Thanks to Hugh and the OCG team for hosting us. There's no partner in the world we work with more closely than OCG. And I really appreciate their support for all of our work here.